Hey guys, as many of you know, we've returned from a trip to Norway and wanted to share some pictures with you.
Yeah, we were given an amazing trip to Norway, all expenses paid because of our podcast about geocaching. And we just wanted to share some of the pictures we took and a few little stories as we go along.
Oh, now, when we say few pictures, I took over 2,500 pictures. So
we didn't choose that many.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're going to have to buckle down here to listen. No, what we did was we selected just the best, I think.
That's right. And we just want to go through them and share, just to give you kind of a glimpse of what our little over a week there was like.
Yeah, but you know what? It still may be. We're going to just pick the highlights. We really are. We're only going to talk about stuff that I think you'd find interesting. But, you know, this is a video. So if it's taking too long, you could always pause it. You can get up, stretch, get a cup of coffee, take a nap, come back. But we started off in L.A., and here's Sean, the sign. And in L.A., we knew we had a long trip coming because it was, 10 hours?
10-hour flight to London Heathrow.
Yeah, and so that was a long time. And so we went to, the next thing here. Oh, hold on. Maybe if I do this. Ooh, even better. Okay. And here's Sean.
Sean wanted to be just like Daddy and wear his backpack on the front.
Well, I had two backpacks. I was carrying a lot of luggage, but I was wearing one on the front, so he wanted to look that way, too. He did pretty good. He was a good traveler.
He loved the in-flight entertainment.
Yeah,
that everyone got their own video screens.
Right over here is a video screen, so he's watching something there, and he has his little stuffed animals.
He even liked the airline food.
Yeah, he enjoyed it. Sometimes airline food looks like this, where it comes to you in a box. This is at dark 30 in the morning, and sometimes it looks like this, which isn't too bad. They actually had wine, nice.
Not too bad.
Yeah. But at some point, Sean just lost it, and he fell asleep.
He did sleep on the flight, thankfully.
Yeah, you'll notice there's more food over here. He's not even eating. He's just too tired. But then we land in Heathrow after 10 hours. I think I honestly slept like 5 minutes, maybe 10.
Not too long at all. But after a quick stop in Heathrow, it was on to Oslo.
Yep. And so here's Oslo. We arrive at Oslo. And here's one of the welcoming signs. And Sean, once again, was a good traveler. You can tell he's tired, though.
Yeah, been a lot of hours, and we were ready to be picked up by our friends.
Yep. And so this is actually a picture taken later, but it's one of the first pictures of our friends. And these are our hosts. This is a geocacher. His name is Ståle. And it's at the time, it's his fiancée, but he let us in on some information.
They were getting married, yes.
Yeah.
That's Lynn.
And their daughter, Ronja. Yeah. And, of course, Sean and Sandy there. And
Sean brought a little gift for Ronja, a little stuffed animal.
That's a stuffed frog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and she really liked it. And and they had a good time playing with each other. One of the things I noticed right away, and I love, for those of you who know me, I love exotic food and trying different things. And so this was caviar in a tube. And it was actually, they had it for breakfast, which I thought was cool. We put it on breads, and oh man, the breads there, they were good.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
So we spent a few days touring around Oslo. Well, one full day and then part of another day, and with our two families together.
Right. And here's a city center. A lot of things going on there, music, and just people gathering at all the times. And here's a picture of Oslo.
We were actually heading back to the subway. The sun was setting.
Right. And, here's a picture of a famous building. It's called the Opera House, and Sean and Ronja were in the picture here. But here's a more panoramic shot of the Opera House.
Yeah, right on the water there.
Right on the water, yeah. And this doesn't look like the fjords you see, but it is a fjord. But it's the one in Oslo, so it's not the ones that you see on postcards and things sometimes. But
Sean being goofy, as usual.
And here's another shot of a different city center. Just merchants there, and our family at a fountain, and just walking around.
Yeah, we walked everywhere.
We walked a lot.
Yeah, there was beautiful flowers everywhere, tree-lined streets, and the cobblestones.
Yeah. Cobblestones everywhere. Now, these are ancient cities. Here in San Diego, we don't have cobblestones except for where they want to be artsy and kind of, be kind of cool.
Right, but these are the real ones.
But these are real ones. These are from, long, long ago.
Oh, we went up to the presidential palace.
Right.
And Sean got a kick out of these guards.
Yeah, they had to stand at attention. And there's a palace behind us, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, that is the palace.
Yeah.
That's all of
and
us there.
and you can't see it in this picture, but there's a flag up there that Stille said that if a certain flag is flown, it means the king is in town.
Right. I said presidential. That's not right. It's the royal palace.
It's the royal palace.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
The royal palace.
Presidential. Sean liked moving around.
Yeah, lots of buses
transport.
and
Yeah.
got everywhere.
Speaking of public transportation, one of the things they have as an option there, I think you pay it monthly, but you get access to, these are rental bikes. And what you do once you have access to them, I don't think you pay each time here. I think you pay once a month and then you have a card or something. You pick up a bike, you ride it to where you need to one of these other stands, and then you drop it off. And so you can use bikes instead of cars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and trolls are really big in Norway.
Trolls are big in Norway.
There's trolls everywhere. Sean liked to pretend to be a troll.
Yeah. So, of course, one of the reasons we went was to go geocaching, and believe it or not, this is a geocache. It's a really small one that we found near...
An urban one, near a church.
Near a church, and it was magnetic. These little round circles are magnets, so the whole packet sits underneath. This one was underneath like a metal box, and so here's the inside of the church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really beautiful.
Really nice church. Here are a couple street performers. This guy is giving the appearance of floating over this guy.
People were really stunned by this,
and
they couldn't figure it out.
There's a pole that looks like they're both holding on to, and people are looking like, what is going on? So I'll let you look at this picture here if you can figure out.
We'll leave the mystery.
We'll leave the mystery, but we figured out how they're doing it. Then we went to a park.
Yeah, this is a famous park in Oslo, the biggest one. It's Frogner Park.
Yeah. And
we got food from a grocery store and just had a picnic here, which we did often.
Which is a really good strategy, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You go to a grocery store, you buy things like breads and meats and cheeses and fruits and then drinks, and you got an inexpensive, good lunch.
Mm-hmm.
But this is Frogner Park, and one of the things it's famous for are these Vigeland sculpture garden, and made by an artist last name Vigeland, and it's they're all nude. And it was amazing how many statues. They're all posed in different ways.
Hundreds and hundreds of them, and every single one is different.
Yeah, and every single one of them is nude.
Yes.
But here's a famous one, this crying baby.
The angry boy.
Angry boy.
And everyone wants to touch the fist.
You'll notice the fist is kind of not tarnished because everybody keeps touching it. It's a brass fist. Maybe that's why he's crying.
Angry.
Because everybody keeps touching his fist. So here's an amazing fountain. Again, more sculpture around it. And, there's this huge monolithic pillar that...
with many figures in it.
Yeah, hundreds of them. Just more pictures. And here's Sean being silly in front of one of them, kind of posing like one of the kids there. And here's a circle of life thing. And I just took this picture with, you could see the old steeple church in the back, that column once again.
We're kind of one end of the park, and you're looking all the way back towards the other.
So over here, I kind of zoom in a little bit. And you can see this here. Vendors every once in a while. And we did have to stop and record our show. So on our show, we actually share a lot, more geocaching focused, really. But we share a lot about what we're seeing and things. And so
Sean was good. He was just patient.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you recognize this thing, but it is the upside-down Viking ship. And it was, I first heard about it when the Olympics were in Norway at Lillehammer. And this place called Hamar. So
we've left Oslo now, and we're driving north through Norway. And we stopped at this town of Hamar, and we saw this, this Viking ship.
And right over here in the picture, there's what caught my eye was this stone. And in this next picture, you'll see it a little bit closer. And it's like a river stone, a river rock, and it's made naturally from waters that kind of swirl it around. I thought it was really cool, so I got a picture of it.
And then we went to a nearby, also in Hamar. These are very, very old church ruins, and they've actually built this whole structure around it to protect it from the elements and from people.
So I think you can go in there and tour maybe, or they do some archaeological studies of it, but it was really neat to see, and it's been, it goes back in history. So
this whole area had really old, and Ståle was saying that's kind of how they make museums, at least outdoor museums in Norway. They just bring these old buildings from different places and put them here.
Right. Then we headed to the main place we needed to be, which is a little bit more north, which is called Savalen, and this is the front entranceway to the resort, the hotel, the spa.
It's called the Mountain Hotel and Spa.
Yeah, and it was sitting on some beautiful property next to this huge lake, And this is actually just a shot right outside the place where we'd have breakfast and lunch and stuff. It's just right outside. This is what it looked like. This huge lake goes on for quite a while over there. We actually take a boat ride a little bit later. We'll show you some pictures for that in a second.
Facilities, yeah. Then these are some of the pictures that Sunny took, just walking down close to the resort on the lake.
Yeah, I brought my tripod. I brought some decent gear and I set it up in order to get these images. A lot of these images, the way you see them looking this way, they actually take seven images on a tripod, and then I combine them together so you can get this kind of cool effect. This one's one example, and here's another one, so you can see all the colors and stuff. They came out really nice, I think. Here's a picture of our family on one day wearing all our podcasher gear.
By the lake.
By the lake. And, okay, so this looks like an American Indian teepee. It's not. I mean, it's got the same design, but it's really large, actually. You can have several people inside. It's called a lavo. And
they had one night, well, a couple nights, they had the geocachers all gathered inside here, and they had a guy playing live music.
Yeah, it was a neat, and they actually had a fire inside.
Right
and
in the middle, there's a fire pit.
Yeah. So here's us having breakfast. That's some actually, soda, and I think he has apple juice.
That was lunch.
Oh, was it lunch?
We don't usually have soda for breakfast.
That's true. That was lunch.
But we had all our meals at the hotel and spa. It was all included.
Yeah. Okay, and speaking of meals, I love exotic food. And
he tried all the unusual stuff.
So this is elk, and there's some reindeer here. By the way, the red stuff, just in case you start getting gross out, that's some kind of cranberry jelly. It's not...
It's not raw meat.
But so there's reindeer, there's elk, there's other stuff. But the most interesting thing is right here. This is called rakfisk. And what it is a kind of fish, and the way they prepare it is controlled spoilage. And some of you may be already going to get gross, but you know what? Blue cheese, and there's other foods that are designed to be fermented or spoiled, and I personally liked it a lot. It tasted...
He ate it with relish.
Oh, it was good. It was good. And here's a little bit of like a tortilla and a little bit of butter, but you oh, no, that might have been cheese. But anyways, it's good. And a lot of people... Actually, there's some Norwegians that were surprised that I went in for a second helping because I liked it. It's not bad. You ought to try it sometime. This is the outside of the back of this.
Yeah, so the other thing, they had all these spa facilities, and one of the really cool things was the indoor swimming pool. And so this is the outside of it.
Yeah, then we have this window here you'll see in a second.
And we have pictures from the inside. We got to enjoy it one day. So that's 2 stories high worth of windows looking out over the lake.
Yeah.
And so, of course, you can swim even when it's snow outside.
Yeah, and so even if the outside was all these trees and everything was covered with snow, you could stay inside this very warm spa and relax. And there's a lot of cool things inside it. One of them with these...
Sean loved this.
So these cushy bed things, you can lay on them, and there's a button underwater that you just pressed with your hand.
Like a private jacuzzi.
And then it just bubbled up, and it was kind of really relaxing, actually. It was pretty cool. Okay, so one of the things that it took a little while to get used to was the fact that we were so far north in latitude that the sun took a long time to set. This picture is actually taken at about 10:30, 10:45 at night. And you can see that there's still some mountain to go down, so it's still going to go down quite a bit. And even when it does go below the horizon, the sky is still lit up like this. Mm-hmm. So you can read you can easily sit down and read a book. I mean, right now you can see the sun on the ground and everything, but even at 11, even at midnight,
you can see well enough to read outside.
Yeah, this is like at 10:40 at night,
and then the sun starts coming up again at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah, it really wreaks havoc when you're sleeping. You know, you think everything 6 o'clock at night, and it's 10:39. One morning I woke up and there were some guys training on not an ice rink, but on a skating path. And it's cement, but I got some pictures of them. And actually, I gave them my business card. They wrote me. I sent them some of these pictures. Mm-hmm. I sent quite a few pictures to them because they saw me shooting by the side with my...
They have some big races here. Not every year, but sometimes in the winter they freeze it.
Yeah.
And then they have races with skates.
Yeah.
Speed skating.
So this is a special house. This is Santa's house.
Yes, and this is one of the big draws for this resort because you can come here, especially at near Christmas time, but also in the summer and visit Santa.
And by the way, a couple things to note is a lot of houses, especially if they're done in the old style, have grass on the roofs or plants on the roofs. I found some interesting information on why they did that, but there's some really good reasons why they put grass on the roofs. And you see this little box over here? We're going to see that in just a little bit. Again, it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but we'll see what that is. So this pole is actually the North Pole, and that's what it says up here, Nordpolen. It means North Pole. And so this is the North Pole. So there you go. It's the North Pole here in Norway, right. What Santa uses while he's in Norway.
And we just got some pictures of the inside of Santa's house because a lot of people can be in here visiting all at once.
Yeah.
And there's some, this is upstairs. There's, letters to Santa from all over the world.
And over here, this Christmas tree.
There's Sean meeting Santa.
Sean meeting Santa, saying hello. And he actually signed the guest book.
The little guest book, yep.
But that Christmas tree off in the corner, if you look at these, in the United States we'd call these binkies or pacifiers. But apparently what happens is one way that parents can help their children be weaned off of the pacifier is to say that they're going to be sent to Santa. So here they are. They're all sent to Santa, and he puts them on this Christmas tree.
Yep. Oh, there's that box, and it actually has a geocache hiding inside.
So you can't open it unless you know the secret passcode, but once you do, here's the actual geocache, and there's Sandy with it. And I actually got an opportunity to interview Santa for the show.
Exclusive interview.
Yeah. It's a good interview. You ought to listen to the show. It's a good show. And one day we went to this old, ancient, historic mining town called Røros. And here we are in the middle of it. It's pretty touristy. There's a lot of people walking around, but
it's a very old town. Yeah, this is the famous church that Sonny got a really amazing shot of.
Yeah, it's stormy day, as you can tell. We got rained on a little bit,
yeah,
but then it cleared up enough for me to get some decent shots.
There's some pictures of the mine. The town was built on a copper mine.
Yeah.
And so we got some pictures of that.
Yeah, here's
some more old houses.
Grass roofs on the house. If you ever want to know why those, I can bore you with the information on why they.
Just ask him.
Just ask me sometime.
This town is actually a World Heritage Site because it's really old and important in Norwegian history.
So more trolls. And Sean liked the trolls enough so that he actually wanted to.
He wanted to pretend to be a troll under the bridge. Yeah. The whole reason we were here, that's not even really a bridge, it's a ramp.
Yeah.
But there was a geocache under there.
There's a geocache under there. And that's not poop. That's actually a piece of copper, probably. There. Here's a geocache we found. Yep. Actually, this little tube was hidden in that wall over there. So if you ever come to Norway and go to Røros, now you know where to find the geocache. Oh, and so here's one day that we stopped to go get groceries for lunch, and we thought these little shopping carts were pretty cool because you can put them on the ground and roll them and then drag them behind you while you shopped, which I thought was just brilliant.
One thing about Norway, though, is very expensive.
Way expensive.
High cost of living. It's a wealthy country, but it translates into the prices.
Yeah.
And some of the things that we could compare, that we knew what they were, 2 or 3 times as expensive as the U.S.
One day we were just pressed for time, and we were headed home, and it was nighttime, and we went to a McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so that's a comparison, Big Mac pricing. So
3 times as much.
Oh, yeah. Easily. Yeah. And the place was full. It was like people were used to that price. One of the things that we wanted to do, because in geocaching, it's really cool when you can find a geocache in another country because there's a map and it kind of lights up and it shows you've been to that country. So we went to Sweden.
When we were in the town of Røros, we were only 35 kilometers from the border. So we couldn't pass that up.
So we went to Sweden and we found this geocache, and then we found this geocache. It was a little bit cool, but the main reason I had my collar up was because we were being bitten at this time by mosquitoes.
Crazy mosquitoes.
Crazy mosquitoes at the time.
And shortly after that, it started raining.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Sheep everywhere. If there was sound here, you'd hear their bells dangling around. And Sean and we started walking around the lake to find some geocaches. And here's a picture.
You can see the resort in the background.
The lake, the resort in the background. And here I am actually teaching Sean how to skip stones for the first time. He did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
On a Norwegian alpine lake. And this boat later, I got a picture of this. Here's a picture of me taking pictures. Here we go. A picture of the boat and the background. That came out nice too. And here's Sean and Sandy finding a geocache. Here's an example of, okay, so back here it's kind of hard to see, but that's the actual geocache. And then that's the logbook that you sign.
This is what they call a power trail. And
Yeah.
so there was a cache every 500 feet or so.
Yeah.
And they were actually all the same, hidden by the same person.
Just like that.
So we went and got 9 in a row before we ran out of time.
Yep. And this is a picture of Santa holding onto a boat while people load onto it, Norwegian boat. And it was really cool because Santa was the skipper, and he let Sean drive for a little while.
And he was
So we had a
speaking
good
to
time.
him in Norwegian
Right.
before he realized that Sean was not understanding.
Yeah. And then he said, "Oh, sorry." And then he spoke to him in English.
This boat is actually part of the resort, but we booked it for just geocachers on that particular day.
So it was full of geocachers, and I got to tell you, Norwegian geocachers are just crazy mad about geocaching. So what's happening here? This guy's jumping into the cold Norwegian lake because in here he's got a GPS and he's got a geocache that he's going to hide.
And actually, three of them,
yeah.
all of them that had stripped off their clothes, jumped in the lake to swim to shore. They were swimming to an island that you can only get to from a boat to hide a geocache.
I actually talked to this guy later, and here he is swimming back after he's placed the geocache on land. So lots of things to take pictures of, and Sean was, like Daddy, taking pictures of everything that he can point his camera at. And here we are at the back with the Norwegian flag. It's really cool. And then some ladies swam out to this island. And
Well, we went down to the end of the lake,
Yeah.
and then we came back, and we picked up the guys who had placed the cache.
Yeah.
And then these 3 ladies jumped in and swam to try to find it.
And so they went and found it and swam back, and we interviewed them a little bit later as well. Talked to them about being crazy, jumping into this cold water. And here I am interviewing the guy who hid it with all these Norwegians around listening. And you know, actually what we found interesting was a lot of these people, they knew us. They were our listeners, and they would come up to us and say, "Hi, I've been listening to you for a while." And, you know, we'd be talking to somebody for a little while and not realize that they were. And yeah, I've been listening, and they know our show. So it's fascinating. Here we are near some boat houses, and everybody's finding a geocache. And here I am. Oh, I went for this run one morning. I couldn't sleep, you know, jet lag. And so I woke up kind of early, and I went for a run around the lake. I went and found another geocache. You can see it back there. And I didn't run fast because I had to keep stopping, because every so often with my iPhone I'd get a picture with my iPhone. Here's another one with my iPhone. It was just an amazing quiet morning. You can hear sheep off in the distance. The mist was in the air. It was just quiet and serene. I think it's a memory I'm going to have for a while, just running around that lake.
So then on Saturday, this was the main event. And there's a lot of different stuff going on. This shows a panel of reviewers, the geocaching volunteers, you know, who are in charge of approving geocaches. And so they had a whole big panel discussion that, of course, we didn't understand. It was in Norwegian.
It was all Norwegian, yeah. And then here's Stole, and he's doing an auction for coins. And here I am interviewing, these are two of the three ladies that jumped into the water. So we talked to them.
Oh, here's another interview, and Sean wanted to get on the act, and he was actually shooting a little video of Sunny interviewing the Norwegian geocachers.
Yeah. And here at this event, we got a picture. A lot of people weren't even here, though, so this is not indicative of the actual size. There's more people going geocaching and not at the event, but here's just a group shot, and we're right in that area right there. Okay, so one day was sort of tour day, and Stole and Lynn took us to some special places. One of them was this sort of a museum dedicated to this artist named Aukrust. And he, the best way to describe it to people who in the United States know Dr. Seuss is he's kind of like Dr. Seuss. So he's an illustrator, but they made movies of some of his cartoons and illustrations. Very inventive guy, very creative. And so this place had a lot of things that were sort of dedicated or devoted to his style of media. And so here's a picture.
He created these 2 characters that then they made a movie out of.
Right.
And it's the it's the most loved and watched and famous movie in all of Norway.
And we now have it on
Yes.
DVD, thanks to Ståle and Lynn. They got that for us as a gift. But this is a rocket ship, and like I say, the guy's really inventive, and so you go in there and you fly to the moon.
But before you do that,
You
they've
have-
created this whole experience where you have to do astronaut training.
Yes.
And we have a bunch of pictures of
So
all the different tasks you have to do.
Sandy's doing astronaut training where you pedal this bike and it's geared so it spins around in a circle, and then it lights up that light. So that's one of the things you learn is how to deal with G forces. And then here I am dealing with walking
On stilts.
on stilts, and Sean's on.
And we had little
different
passport
stilts.
cards, and each station you went to, you got to punch your card.
Right. Here they are balancing their agility. Yeah. And here Sean's getting ready to go on the rocket ride to the moon. It was really inventive. So take a look around. I mean, they've got an upside down table here. The moose head's upside down. Things are stuck to the wall because, in free space, zero gravity, you of course can eat on the ceiling. It doesn't matter. And then here we are actually in our...
And Sean kept asking, "We're not really going to the moon, right?"
Yeah.
He was like half unsure.
He's a little concerned. But so here we are in our rocket ride. And okay, this car is really famous. It is part of the, what was that called? The
Pinchcliffe Grand
Pinchcliffe
Prix.
Grand Prix. And it's part of this movie, and so they made a 3D, full model of it. Really cool movie. I liked it a lot. And here is Sean with one of the Sulan.
Sulan and Ludwig is the other one.
And Ludwig, yeah. And so here's one of the characters walking around. Okay, the next thing was amazing. Ståle actually drove us up this crazy high, steep mountain, and it's one of two of the highest mountains in Norway that you can drive up.
Right.
So this is a valley. It's a valley created by a glacier long ago, and somewhere over here is Savalen. But we found a geocache while we were up there.
And Savalen is already like 1,600 feet above sea level, but the top of the mountain that we drove to was 5,400 feet.
Yeah.
And it was freezing.
Yeah, it was pretty cold up there. So
But
I got some
beautiful, above the tree line.
So I got some pictures once again above there. And here's me taking pictures. Sandy took a picture of me taking pictures. This is just actually, I was using my iPhone then. And then there were geocaches to find, and we found one. It actually took a little bit of walk to get this. And then I handed Sean my camera, and he took a picture of us sitting up here at the top of this.
You did a pretty good job.
Yeah, it was a good job. Just one more picture from way up there. It was just amazing. The pictures really don't capture. You have to be there and just look at how high up and just the ruggedness of the terrain. This, I did an interview with the owner. So this is the person who funded just about everything. And this is Per Morten. And he is one of the owners of the hotel and spa. And told us on the interview about a lot of the facilities and things.
So on our last day there, we had to get up, at 3:30 in the morning, because we had to drive 4 to 5 hours all the way back to Oslo to catch our flight. So in the morning, we found a geocache on the European continent before we left Norway.
And then we flew long distance.
Many hours.
And then we ended up in Los Angeles. And within the same day, we found another geocache in Los Angeles.
On a second continent.
On the second continent. So that's kind of a big deal for a geeky geocacher like us. So there you go. That is our trip to Norway. By the way, if you write us, we can give you a link to all those pictures. So if you want to look at them a little longer or look at them at your own speed, whatever, you can. And we can give you that link to the... it's online. All those pictures are online. But hope you enjoyed that. Hope that was helpful. And hopefully you didn't have to stop too many times and take a nap or drink your coffee. And thanks for joining us on our little trip there to Norway.